The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
And welcome into the Sportsocracy. I'm Tank Spencer, Jeremy Greene's alongside, and we are in the Wicked Weed studio, wickedweedbrewing.com. Drink different. Fantasy football continues to roll on here in the program. Today we're going to talk about the faves and the fades for the 2021 fantasy football season, focusing on the North divisions in each conference, NFC North, AFC North. Before we get into breaking down the faves and the faves and the fades, welcome everybody into the program. Appreciate you following along with us. Be sure to share, like, share, and follow the Sportsocracy on all of the social medias. Subscribe to the channel as well. Share it out with your friends. Indeed. First off, bad news yesterday about your legendary football coach, Bobby Bowden. Terminal illness. He's 91 years old. Man's lived a very full life. I know this has got to be an emotional day for you, though. I know I would be if I was when this news came out about Dean Smith.
I had the pleasure to meet the guy one time.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, the nicest human being I've ever come in contact with. Very, very sad news. But the way he said it was, I've lived a very full life, and you know, as he has done everything, handles it with grace. So,
yeah.
You know, many.
Lots of class.
Yeah, I mean, it's just who he is. So
Lots of class.
All the love to the Bowden family, and it's a sad day.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, big news out of college football yesterday was that Texas and Oklahoma want to leave the SEC, or leave the Big 12 and join the SEC.
Yeah, good luck with that.
You don't think it's going to happen?
Nope.
I do.
Because I don't think it takes three schools in the SEC to go, fuck that, for that to not happen.
Right.
I can think three of them off the top of my head. One of them is Texas A&M, who will never vote for this, ever. Missouri will never vote for this. I don't think LSU would vote for this. Because here's the thing. Texas A&M came in with more money than common sense. What'd it do? Killed Tennessee.
Yeah.
By Tennessee, you're an afterthought now. Why? Because you can't keep up with them financially.
Right.
And that's exactly what it would do to all those mid-tier programs in the SEC. No, I don't think this is going to happen. I think there's enough power brokers between West Virginia, Texas A&M. I'm just trying to think of the ones that would be against this. Yeah, those are the two biggest ones. Oklahoma State, that's the one I was forgetting. I knew there was one I was forgetting. I just couldn't think it was.
I think this is the sign of things to come in college football, all college sports, actually. With the name, image, and likeness stuff, everybody's going to be looking to realign all of these conferences. I could very well see a path where, not immediately. I mean, the Big 12 still has the TV rights for both Texas and Oklahoma for the next 4 years until 2025.
And you can get out of that if you so needed to.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's going to be a big restructuring coming. And I could very well see a path where we end up with four massive, it's not going to be a Power Five. It's going to be four massive super conferences. To me, Texas and Oklahoma, they're the cream of the crop.
Well, nothing's going to happen until you know what this playoff's going to look like. Because I got news for you. The SEC and Texas and Oklahoma, if 6 conference champions get in this thing, I'm out. Because now that means you're going to have basically 6 spots, and you're going to have LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Florida, Alabama,
Georgia,
all in the same conference. Bullshit. I'll believe that when I see it.
Right.
Because now this would be hard to forecast, but there's a possibility that you'd have 7 of those teams in the top 10 and only one of them get in the playoff. And one of them not get in the playoff.
Right.
No way. Nothing's going to happen until then. Yeah. That Bleacher Report story screamed to me, hey, it's a slow day. We've been sitting on this for a minute.
I think this is the tail wagging the dog in this scenario, because I think the playoff thing's going to be on hold until we figure out what's going to go on with the conferences.
You got that backwards. You have that completely fucking backwards.
You think they will set
100%.
They will set the playoff and then the conference will? Nah.
How does it make any sense the other way? So we're going to let all these teams move around, which, by the way, takes a good amount of time. Now, you're talking probably 5 years before you could ever do that. So you're literally sitting here telling me that the playoff's going to sit at 4 just waiting on that to sort out? Second time I said this day. Bullshit. The amount of money that will make, you got the wrong dog and the wrong tail.
Yeah.
No, the playoff thing is the next shift in college football, no doubt. And I won't be shocked if it happens within the next 6 months, that you know definitively where this is going to go. Then the conferences will figure it out from there. If you give a bunch of spots to conference champions, then why the hell would you want to all pack into one conference? It doesn't make any sense. It's not the money. You can't tell me that there's overwhelmingly more money in the SEC than what Oklahoma and Texas currently do. Texas has their own fucking network.
After the NCAA came out and basically said, we'll let the conferences figure this out, and Mark Emmert was talking about the decentralizing of college sports, I think that is the path for me. I think the path is we're going to figure out the conferences first, and everything with the playoffs going to be in flux. But I mean, we'll get into more of it coming up this afternoon on ESPN Asheville 92.9 FM, 880 AM and 1400. The Sports Tank with Jeremy Greene, heard everywhere on the iHeartRadio app, weekdays from 3 to 5. We'll talk more about that coming up this afternoon. Ancillary other sports stories as well. Saw where a kid who's one of the, what's his name, Mikey Williams, who is the top sophomore, I think, coming up in high school basketball. He's going to be playing in North Carolina this year, and he's apparently just signed on to a big name, image, and likeness deal that's going to pay him millions of dollars over the next few years.
I'm going to keep saying this. You did this to yourself. People like you did this. Oh, he's got to be fair. Okay, just watch. I'm just telling you. This has happened at a rate that I could never have possibly thought. I didn't think it was going to be a slow trickle. I thought you had turned on the faucet. Well, here's the thing. Here's what I didn't understand. You put the little stopper in it. So now it's just going to be sitting, you're going to have water in the floor in 2 or 3 months. I thought this would take 2 or 3 years. Not even close. Not even close. If you don't understand what's getting ready, if you don't see the writing on the wall of why this was such a shit idea, I can't help you. The just think about what you've said since we've been on this on this camera. The decentralization of college football. Yeah, because that's great. Let these just cajillionaires legislate themselves. That won't backfire ever because they've been so good about that in the past.
Right.
For me, it's borderline. If I didn't love college football so much, it'd be borderline funny. But I do, and it's not.
Oh, you think because you think it's going to destroy?
I think this is going to be an explosion you've never seen the likes of. Kelvin Joyner asked in the comments, if the NCAA implodes, who forms a super conference? Well, first of all, the NCAA is already imploding. It's already the Supreme Court imploded it. So now, how? All right, I mean, just out of curiosity, how do you think this goes? Give me a good scenario here. How this doesn't end in just disaster.
I don't think it's going to be a disaster. I think
you're out of your mind.
I think all of the top teams are going to form their own new NCAA, whatever that looks like. It's going to be.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah?
I was going to tell you that's not going to happen. They'll legislate themselves by conference before they ever do that. This model is broken because here's the thing: you can't legislate it. You can't do. There's no rules. The Supreme Court basically just said, "Here, free for all. You do whatever the fuck you want to do." And I mean, and now this gravy's going to spill over on high school sports too. We don't cover that, and I'm not going to lie to you. The reason we don't cover it is because I don't really care. But yeah, if you don't think the gravy's about to spill over on those taters, you're out of your mind.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. But the sport itself will still exist. College football is still going to remain.
Not like you know it now.
No, of course not. I mean, I knew that going into this, that the money was going to change everything. But who was it that created the NCAA in the first place? It was the schools. It was the schools. The schools all came together and said, we need to have a governing body to oversee all of this and make sure nobody's cheating and everything. And it'll happen again, but it'll just happen at different levels.
I think it will be by conference.
You'll have the top level. Well, I see, because I can't see the SEC not coming together with the Big Ten, not coming together.
They won't come together with the Big Ten. There's a hatred there that runs so deep, they will never come together. The team that will get fucked in this is Ohio State. Because Ohio State does not have a dancing partner in the least. Mm-hmm. You make money, that's all well and good. We don't want to travel to Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And you don't offer jack dick to us. Because Texas straight up is more alluring than Ohio State is. The fact that they're not a winner, nobody cares. That's the part of this that nobody seems to understand, is that nobody cares how much you win. We care because we're fans. Mm-hmm. In terms of where all of this goes, the only thing that matters is the money. Mm-hmm. You opened the gate on the money. And so now you've bastardized the sport. This is the baseball model is what you're living. You do get that, right? You do understand that our second favorite sport now lives under the baseball model.
Okay.
Wild West, you can spend as much money as you want. You don't understand how that's killed baseball. You really don't get that. Because what happens every time you do this? Mm-hmm. All right, so just let me walk this down, and we'll do this this afternoon too. Mm-hmm. It's just I can't handle hearing some of the things you say and not covering it. What killed baseball? It's a mixture of three things.
What? No salary cap.
That was the first and foremost. Mm-hmm. The strike then did a hell of a job on you, mm-hmm. and then the fact that you can't agree on shit. You got the Players Union and and Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. They can't agree on anything. So you just live in strife. Mm-hmm. You understand that's exactly where this is going, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to have these power broker schools that have all the money. They're going to be the New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, LA Dodgers of college football. Mm-hmm. What happens to all the fans that pull for the, Oakland A's? Because there's a lot of those. There's way more of those than you think. Mm-hmm. Because the high end of college football, how many teams are in it? I'm just curious what your number is.
I'm talking
about that have the money to make themselves relevant. How many programs is that? I'm curious just what your number is.
Oh, God, I'd say it's probably 20 or so.
That's about right.
Yeah.
I would say that's about right. And you look at all of these programs that have big fan bases. Why would you care? Tennessee, be really honest with yourself. Because you think it's bad now, just wait. Just wait. Auburn, same thing. Mm-hmm. All these programs that I talk about that can't compete because of money currently, it's about to get exponentially worse. So why would you care? And now you have absolutely nothing governing this. There's no positive to this, and I tried my damnedest to tell you. But we got to get the Bears have got to be a big buddy. Mm-hmm. God bless. We live in a fucking world where nobody ever says, no! That's a stupid idea! No!
No, we do. We do have that. The NCAA played that role, and they lost their ass in court.
They didn't lose shit. Mark Emmert walks away making $3 million a year, and guess what? That's not going to stop. Because he still legislates all the sports that don't make any money. Mm-hmm. The NCAA didn't really lose anything here. Because they're going to keep cashing checks, and the money's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the interest is going to wane and wane and wane. If you don't pull for one of these high-end schools, you are screwed. And I could probably give you 20 of them off the top of my head. About half of them are in the ACC. Mm-hmm. Think about how many NC State Wolfpack fans we know.
Yep.
Obviously, we're an affiliate of North Carolina, so we know a lot of those. Carolina doesn't really have the money to contend, but they will in basketball. Mm-hmm. Because I got news for you, Carolina's not one of those 20 schools you were just talking about. Think about how big that fan base is. Mm-hmm. You can basically pony up the money to compete in one sport, basketball. Football, that's been fun. Hey, Mac, this was cool. This was a fun run. As soon as Mac Brown's gone, you're irrelevant again, and you will never be relevant again because they don't raise money like that.
Okay.
Hell of an argument.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, you can believe that if you want, but
there's no believing it. Tell me how it doesn't happen.
Okay,
Tell me how it doesn't happen.
You are still going to be attached to your conference.
That you just said we're going to merge into a super conference. You think
Right,
Texas
but the
and
existing
Oklahoma,
ones are not going to go. The existing ones are not going to
who's going to fucking
leave.
care? All right, take the ACC, for example, because I got news for you. If this super conference thing happens, Florida State, bye. Clemson, bye. So now you've got an ACC that
Where are they going to go?
Into your super conference that you keep talking about. Why the hell would Florida State sit around with NC State and Georgia Tech and Boston College? Why? Florida State and Clemson will hold hands and run right to that super conference. Florida State will be an afterthought, but they'll be there.
But that's what I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. It's not going to be one super conference. It's going to be like it is now, where you have several conferences.
Disagree.
Okay.
Because why would any power not be in that? All right, just think of the power brokers that are already in one conference. Mm-hmm. Florida, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M. I'm missing one. Georgia. Mm-hmm. So you have 5 of them in one conference right now. Why in the hell would Florida State not run right to that if that's how this is going to go? You're going to be legislated by the conferences. This one's going to have a TV deal that's 10 times the ACC. Why would I stay here? Okay, I'll go be an afterthought and be a speed bump for the rest of these teams. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So this is the part of this that the people that were on your side of this, you never seem to fucking understand this. The sponsors and the money are going to go where the eyeballs go. How big of a draw do you think Georgia Tech, NC State football actually is? And I'm hammering this one just solely because we know the players in this, mm-hmm. and I can tell you there's no interest in them. None. So you cherry pick the best teams off the top, mm-hmm. and then you leave these shell conferences. You know what that turns into? The Pac-12. Without Oregon and USC. How interesting do you think that is? And then you can't get recruits because the recruits want to be in these places that they're making $1 million to be the quarterback at Alabama that's never played a snap. Mm-hmm. It's just a rolling effect. And yeah, if you don't think they would all come together into one, you are the naivety in that is mind-boggling. Because and I keep using Florida State because I think they're on the bottom tier of that power broker tier. Right. We cannot raise money the way Oregon can. We don't have a Papa Phil. We can't do it like Texas A&M can. We can't do it like Oklahoma State can. Just can't. But we have the prestige and the fan base that we bring enough people with us that we have to be involved. So just think about taking the 2 best teams out of every other conference but the SEC. Mm-hmm. What is that going to draw? Michigan State, Northwestern. Where is the money in that? And now you take the money away from the program that makes everything else work. Mm-hmm. What happens? You start cutting out these programs. This is the part of this that I never could make people understand because I'm the big evil red capitalist. I couldn't make them understand. You do get that the money, where the money goes is where all of the things go. Mm-hmm. Where all the eyeballs go, that's where the sponsors go. And where the sponsors go is where the players go. Well, there's not a lot of those. Right now, they're all being bumped up because you have one of them in every conference. Mm-hmm. Pac-12 has USC, Oregon. Big Ten has Ohio State. I would say Michigan's the next one, but it's...
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
They're not even really in the ballpark of the others. The ACC has Florida State, Miami, and Clemson. What conference am I? Big 12 has Texas, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Super Conference, all gone. And what happens? The money gets hoarded out, and all these other programs erode. Because if you think that a program like, Iowa State is just going to lather up a program to spend all fall play in West Virginia, you're wrong. They'll do it. They won't put money into it. All of the facilities, all of that shit, that's all done. Mm-hmm. Because the money went bye-bye.
Well, I mean, everything you say is making sense, except for I don't believe that that's the way this is going to go. I don't think all of the top programs are going to go into the same conference. Because if they do that, why would Florida State want to leave to go to the SEC to be the 7th best team?
Money, the root of everything.
I can still stay in the ACC
and have a TV deal that's hoarded out. Okay, so that would be like saying it's better to be North Dakota State than it is to be Boston College. That's dumb. It's flat out not true. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you rule the conference. You're still too worried about winning. The winning doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. All right, let's say it goes my way. And let's say you get a couple of these that just don't go. And Florida State is, we'll stay in the ACC and dominate. Cool. You'll be a speed bump because you're not making the money. All right, you're in this conference that you can win every year because you're beating just a shitload of mediocre colleges. Okay, so you get to the playoff. You get one little payday. It's on the road because that's how this is going to go. So you go to somebody else's stadium and get just freight trained. Meanwhile, your TV deal is a tenth. I would say it would be a tenth
of what the SECs will be if they add.
And I got
Texas
news for you. This
Oklahoma.
Texas-Oklahoma thing came out for a reason. There's no doubt it came out for a reason. Now, where it came from, I don't know. I refuse to believe it's the SEC. I kind of think it's Texas and Oklahoma going, how would you guys feel about this? All of you power brokers that keep us alive.
Well, apparently there have been back channel talks about this for a while because the report was that there could be an official announcement coming in a couple of weeks.
That's not true.
So this has been talked about behind closed doors by somebody. We just don't know who. We don't know how high it's gotten, what levels of it, has Greg Sankey been involved in these conversations?
100%.
He's not letting anything out because he said I'm not going to speculate on rumors, or I'm not going to comment on speculation. I think is what he said. Now I think it obviously we are at a precipice here where the NCAA is going to completely change. It just depends on how that's going to change.
Die wrong.
Yes, the NCAA as an organization will die. And that's kind of where we all wanted it to go.
Why is Spanish happening in the comments?
I have no idea.
I think that's a way of saying, hey, talk about football now.
We are talking about football.
Yeah, talk about not Tank is wrong football.
What? Stop that.
You've been wrong about this the entire time. Why the hell would I back off of it now?
I'm not wrong.
Literally, as the world is burning, why would I go, no, I think there's some merit to what you were saying?
I'm not wrong. There's not going to be one super conference with 20 teams and then everybody else just cashes out of college football, because that's basically what you're saying. That's not going to happen. These entities are going to fight for every expansion team that they can, because that's essentially where we're at now, where we're going to end up in a bidding war between several conferences to try to get the biggest schools to come in, just like we did last time. Only this time I think it's going to be final, and it's going to be on a grander scale than we ever expected. But there will continue to be multiple conferences in college football. There will continue to be a playoff format.
And most of them will be irrelevant.
Many of them are irrelevant now.
No, they're not. No, they're not. You got 60
Boston
programs.
College is, you use
that
them.
gets paid $1 bajillion from the ACC that funds the rest of their programs.
And they're still going to get that.
No, they won't. You take Clemson, Florida State out of the ACC. What
They're
does
not
that
going
team
to.
do? Yes,
They will
will.
be the benchmarks. They will be the cornerstones of the conference.
The naivety of you sometimes just blows my mind. You've already got Texas and Oklahoma that are the biggest entities in the goddamn sport, and they're talking about moving to the SEC. But Clemson and Florida State would just hang around because we like each other so much. The fuck they would. I'm not saying you won't have a 30-team conference. It's entirely possible. Wouldn't shock me in the damn least if they came together and just went, well, there's nobody to stop us. And then what happens? That's college football. That's where all 12 of your spots in the playoff come from, because it's where all the money is. This all ties back to money, and that's the part of this that I cannot. I've tried to beat this in your head for 4 years, and you don't get it. It's literally unfurling right in front of your face, and you're still just sticking your fingers in your ears going, nope, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Nick Saban literally just came out and told you I'm right. Our quarterback's never played he's played, 23 snaps at Alabama? He's already making $1 million. Yeah. Why the fuck do you think he said that? One reason, because every high school junior in the world went, son of a bitch, he made $1 million. He's thrown 23 passes ever, and they were all in games that they were up by 40 or more. Yep, I believe I'll sign up for that. Hey, Boise State, you can stop calling now, because I don't care. But just sit back and watch.
Anyway, we're gonna have some fun with this afternoon on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to not say fuck as many times as I have in the segment.
That would be very, very much appreciated. Let's talk about the faves and the favorites in in professional football. Fantasy football season is we're smack dab in the middle of the beginning of it here. Going down every conference, every division. We did, what did we do yesterday? We did the Souths yesterday. We did the East the day before. Today is the North's turn. So let's start off in the NFC North. 2021 fantasy football, faves and fades for the AFC North, apparently.
Yeah, I got tired of an off-center graphic, so I had to streamline it. Tanks are in gold, mine are in white.
All right, so in the AFC North, we'll start out with the best team in the division. I think it's closer than Jeremy does. But anyway, the Baltimore Ravens. My favorite for this year is J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins to me he is the star running back on a team that ran the ball 555 times last year. He came on in his rookie year, late in his rookie year, getting more tote, and I believe there's going to be even more of it this year. There's now a defined split in the carries. And it's going to be J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, and then Gus Edwards.
I agree with you. There's one caveat. The reason I couldn't put J.K. Dobbins as my favorite is very simple.
Okay.
It bothers me that you're talking to Todd Gurley. It bothers me that you want the running back to fill that Mark Ingram role. If it's Dobbins and Gus Edwards, I love them both. Mm-hmm. You bring in a third back to this, and I am Seacrest the fuck out. I love J.K. Dobbins. I think he's the best running back Baltimore's had since Jamal Lewis.
Right.
However, I don't want this workload that's already cut into by Lamar Jackson to get cut again. But like I said, if they don't bring in that third running back, you're absolutely right. I will be all the way in on J.K. Dobbins. And I love Gus Edwards, too.
Yeah, last year he had 105 yards rushing. The one thing that they didn't use him very much for last year was catching passes. And I think that's one place where he has the ability to see maybe not a super amount of growth, but he's going to get more than 18 receptions this year. I think they will try to grow that part of his game. I think 9 touchdowns, which he had last year, is probably a low mark for his NFL career.
The one thing I will tell you is that historically, they don't throw to running backs a lot. Mm-hmm. So I probably would not – I wouldn't feel too wonderful about how that's going to grow. I mean, Mark Ingram played there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Combined, 37 targets. It's about on line with what J.K. Dobbins got. Mm-hmm. And I don't know Justice Hill. He doesn't play enough for me to really care, but I'm sure it's right there in this.
Right. Last year, J.K. Dobbins averaged 6 yards per carry, which is unbelievable. It's the third best in the league. It was number one among running backs. Do you know the two players who had more than 6 yards a carry?
Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And Sam Darnold. I was just thinking of somebody that had a real long run. Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones. No. It was Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson
really?
And Kyler Murray had over 6 yards per carry last year.
I would have thought Kyler ran too much for that. Mm-hmm. But that's
Nope. To me, I like J.K. Dobbins this year, and I'm more than happy to take him in the second round of a draft.
For me, it depends on who's in front of him. If I get to the back end of the second and I just keep going back to the Todd Gurley thing. Mm-hmm. It bothers me that you're talking to him. When people try to tell you who they are, you should probably listen. And this has been a gross, three-headed thing since Lamar's been the quarterback, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping they just give the full workload to J.K. Dobbins. And then I agree with you. I would have him as probably my RB 10 in the league.
Yeah.
9 now that Cam Akers is done for the year. Mm-hmm. I'd have him ahead of Saquon Barkley. God, I hate Saquon.
You do?
I do. I'm just so down on him. I love the talent. I wish he'd come play for the Jets.
I would
change the color of your jersey and just walk across the hall.
Right.
And, God, I would love him. Love him in that zone blocking scheme.
Now, are you saying if you're picking 6th in a draft and say Travis Kelce's gone? I know you're the Travis Kelce no matter what guy.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're drafting.
I'd be in jail because I would have stabbed whoever took him in the top 5.
But you're drafting 6. Mm-hmm. You would take J.K. Dobbins over Saquon Barkley? Is that what you're saying?
What is somebody holding a gun to my head that I can only pick between those two?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's why would I do that? There's 5 running backs I like better than both of them on the board. Better way to have asked that would have been middle of the 2nd round. Saquon's fallen all the way down here, and J.K. Dobbins is there.
Are you still taking J.K.?
Yeah, I probably would.
Oh, I don't know.
If you told me definitively there was no Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell or whoever the hell else it could be, then yeah, I would. It's a team that's going to run the ball a lot. I don't think the Giants are going to run as much as people think. And Armchair said, what kind of league is this? I'm trying to figure out the same thing. Apparently I'm being held hostage.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
I'm being held hostage by Tony Montana, and I have to pick between 2 running backs that don't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, I'm higher on J.K. Dobbins than I am Saquon.
Okay.
So, I agree with you there. Now, looking at mine's quite simple, and you should probably already know who it is. It's Lamar Jackson. I am drunk as heebie-jeebies on Lamar Jackson.
Oh, wait, can I do the same thing you do to me? Ooh, spicy.
There are a lot of people that are down with Lamar Jackson.
Are there?
He was QB 10 last year. He's going at quarterback 7 right now.
Really?
Yeah, that's dumb to me. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I love Lamar Jackson is the reason I'm fading Marquis Brown. This is the best weapons he's had ever by a mile. Mm-hmm. People seem to forget Sammy Watkins is talented at football. He just breaks every time the wind blows.
Right.
I love Rashad Bateman. There's just weapons on this team. I'm out on Marquise Brown because he's not the only home run threat anymore. And he can't run a route to save his damn life. So it's very boomer bust with him. Mm-hmm. And people seem to be the weird thing about the takes I see on Lamar Jackson, they think he's going to throw markedly more and run less. Bullshit. It's my 3rd bullshit in 34 minutes. I don't buy it. That's what got you here. Why would you stop doing that? Now, I think he's going to throw deep more. And I think it will be to Sammy Watkins and to Marquise Brown. Mm-hmm. Still use Andrews as the guy across the middle. Andrews is your fade.
Andrews is my fade. Mark Andrews is my fade just mainly because of the competition. Because of the competition that is there for him. Look, he's fine. If you miss out on one of the top tight ends, I'm just not bending over backwards to try to get Mark Andrews on my team.
See, I could care less about Mark Andrews. I won't have him in any league. Which is funny because I was the guy screaming for him when he came into the league. Mark Andrews is the unheralded tight end of what will eventually become Jeremy's West Virginia Ninjas.
Yeah. To me, there is a marked drop-off in the tight end category. After the first 3, then you got a whole bunch of dudes. And Mark Andrews, to me, sure, he can have major weeks where he scores 3 touchdowns, but he can also disappear at times. It just depends on the game flow. Last year he had 8 games where he was a top 5 tight end. 8 out of his 14 games. There were also 5 games, though, where the best he did was tight end 21. He finished 1 week at tight end 33. Mm-hmm. That's hard to do in the NFL where there aren't very many star tight ends. To me, it's very boom or bust for him, and I'm not, like I said, bending over backwards to draft him as the 4th tight end off the board.
Fun question.
Yeah.
What is the highest percentage of snaps Mark Andrews has ever played in his career?
Ooh, I don't know. 78?
58.
58, okay.
Which was last year. Before last year, the most he'd ever played was 40. He's a specialty tight end. Oh, another fun game. Mm-hmm. Mark Andrews has played 45 games in his career. How many has he ever started? This is something to think about with Mark Andrews, and I've said this for a long time.
How many has he ever started?
Mm-hmm. How many games has he been listed as a starter for the Baltimore Ravens?
I don't know.
9.
That's it?
This will be the first year that he's the unquestioned starting tight end. Because Nick Boyle will not play that, and I can't. The name has gone completely out of my head.
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst was the one for a while, but then when he went, it was last year. There was another one in front of him. I can't think of his name. If some good soul would tell me who that is in the comments before blood starts coming out of my ears, that would be great. It'll come to me in a minute.
That's shot. I didn't even know that.
He's a specialty player. That's what nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. Now you got 3 wide receivers. So that tight end that blocks, that guy's going to be in way more than you think he will.
Right.
I would say Mark Andrews' snap count goes down.
Mark Andrews is very touchdown dependent, and he's got competition now.
Well, he's not a good blocker at all. So you think about a team that's going to run a lot, that's the reason the snap count's always been so low.
Right.
Well, now you have 3 receivers that you're going to need to get on the field quite a bit. So I don't see how that number doesn't go down going into next year. I'm actually with you on the fade of Mark Andrews. Marquis Brown is the one I'm fading, but I don't hate on the hashtag no Andrews.
Yeah.
I just don't like where he's going. I love the talent.
Who, Brown?
No, Mark Andrews.
Oh, Mark Andrews, okay.
I was on him when he came out of Oklahoma in the draft.
I considered putting Marquise Brown on my fade list, but I'm actually fine with where he's being drafted right now. I mean, he's in 9th round. When you get down to that point, I mean, that's kind of where I'm looking for boom weeks out of wide receivers. By no means am I taking Marquise Brown as my top wide receiver, or even my top 2 wide receivers on a fantasy team. But I had no problem with his value of where he was going.
I do. He will be the definition of boom or bust. And I think Sammy Watkins is going to take more from him than people think.
All right, this is going to be fun. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
This is the one where I'm going to yell at you. There are 3 teams of the 8 we're doing today. You've already pissed me off with the NCAA thing. And I have this weird feeling that I'm going to yell at you before one of these is all said.
Probably so. Pittsburgh Steelers, faves and favorites for 2021 fantasy football. My fave is Deontay Johnson. It's taken a lot. It's taken probably too much time, but I've finally come around on the Deontay Johnson thing. He struggled with drops last year. I get it. He had the most drops in the league, but he also had the 6th most targets of anybody in the league. 144 targets last year. I believe that his growth is going to cement him as he might be the number 1 wide receiver for this team.
Oh, I have a spicy to that. Damn you, bored?
I know you believe that the number 1 is going to be Chase.
I think he's the best receiver on this team. I think without a shadow of a doubt, he's the number 1 receiver on this team.
I think there's to me, it's more opportunity for Deontay Johnson.
I don't like where he's going.
I mean, he's going ahead of everybody. He's going ahead of Juju. He's going ahead of Chase Claypool. According to Fantasy Pros, he's wide receiver. He's like 61 overall.
51. Underdog ADP, which is something that I really like to use because it combines all of the things. He's a 51. Here's what nobody seems to be talking about with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They could not run a greasy peg up a cat's ass last year.
Yes.
That's going to change this year. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
And you're the lowest in the world, I think, on Najee Harris and this offensive line. You can't sustain 3 receivers plus a rookie tight end that you just invested in and a tight end that you're already paying at these ADPs. You cannot do it. Especially not when I think the one that you're hyping is the 3rd most talented of the 3. Juju Smith-Schuster is like the forgotten man. And there are articles everywhere talking about drops don't affect fantasy. Deontay Johnson's being drafted at his floor, not his ceiling. Disagree with you. Disagree with you 147%, because here's the thing that fantasy people seem to not understand. Your world does not live in a vacuum. So the fact that he's producing for your fantasy team don't mean dick to Mike Tomlin. And guess what happens if he comes out and leads the league and drops next year? You got 2 tight ends now and a running back that has to be on the field a lot. Do the math. 5 linemen, 1 quarterback, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. What does that leave out?
Deontay Johnson.
The 3. Oh, yeah, that guy that plays in the slot. I think his snap count goes down.
Okay.
I think if he comes out, and look, I understand he had 2 lost games last year, and if it wasn't for that, he finished at wide receiver 22 in standard, wide receiver 24 in PPR. If it wasn't for the 2 games he left early, he'd have been in the top 20. I get it. Juju Smith-Schuster was also horrible last year. Well, guess what? Now teams have seen a year of Chase Claypool, who can absolutely devastate you deep, and Deontay Johnson. You remember that thing I said last year of, man, I really don't like that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to get number 1 coverage. Be really honest with yourself. You're game planning against the Steelers right now. Who do you put number 1 coverage on? Sure as hell ain't Juju. I'll accept either of the other 2 wide receivers. I think it would, if it's me, it would be Chase Claypool because he's the one that can just destroy me.
Yeah.
I think the NFL will look at it as Deontay Johnson.
Okay.
Which makes me like Juju way more, makes me like Chase Claypool way more, because I can get them later. I want a piece of this offense. I don't want the first piece of this offense.
Yeah.
So he's my fade. He's your fave.
He's my favorite. My fade is Juju Smith-Schuster, just because there's a lot of he has more competition now for catches. With Deontay Johnson and all of his targets that he had last year, Chase Claypool coming up in his 2nd year, I think he's going to be targeted more by Ben, and he's also just a head case. And that matters to me. It matters to me that, it appeared at times he was too interested about getting the dig in on somebody else. The whole pregame thing with Corvette, the TikTok videos.
I'll bet you don't see that this year.
Oh, no.
He went out into free agency and nobody cared.
You wouldn't think so, but again, he's a flashy player who likes to be out there and be on social media. I don't know that he's going to go that route again, or if he's going to find a different headspace for this year, but it's the competition and the attitude to me, and the fact that he just wasn't very good last year.
No, and I think the way he's covered is going to change. I don't think he's going to see that number 1 coverage like he did last year. And here's the thing. Deontay Johnson had 144 targets last year. Do you see there being any shot he replicates that?
No.
I don't either. I think what you saw last year was a ceiling in this offense.
No, but I think he can be more efficient with the targets that he does get. So,
wow.
What?
Do you know how many catches Juju Smith-Schuster had last year? Take a guess. 16 games.
I don't know, 70.
You're 30 too low. He had 97 catches.
Did he really? Wow.
Good God. That is way more than I thought it was.
Way more than
I think I had just gleaned over Juju, and I'd never looked at I think I've looked at that stat about 100 times, and I've just gleaned over it every time.
Right. No, he's the guy to me that, they're in the 7th round where his current ADP is at. I'm passing.
Juju?
Yeah. I will wait and I will see how far he falls.
It depends for me. It depends on who I have to take him over. Let me look at the ADP, and I'll tell you where he could fall for me.
Okay.
Consensus ADP right now has Juju Smith-Schuster at first pick of the 8th round. Guys behind him, I would take him over Tyler Boyd. I would take him over Robbie Anderson. Yeah, he ain't falling any further than that for me. I'm just looking at all the guys behind him, and there's a couple in front of him I'd take him ahead of. Chase is in the 7th. Deontay's in the 5th. And, I like Chase Claypool the best, but I would say I like Juju Smith-Schuster second.
Okay.
The target share was just very similar. And now I think you're going to see coverages shade over to Deontay as opposed to chasing Juju on the outside.
Right.
Plus, here's the thing. What happens when you start throwing the tight ends more? Who does that affect? The slot guy. Because the outside receivers stay on the field. Mm-hmm. It's the slot guy that comes off for a tight end. And Najee Harris. I would say projection of targets for all three of these guys.
Oh, God.
You had 140 for Deontay, 144 for Deontay, 128 for Juju Smith-Schuster.
I'd probably say the top caps out at like 125.
Oh, it's about where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think Juju's going to stay about where he was. I would say Deontay comes down. The excess goes to Claypool because he came on late. Mm-hmm. And that's about where you're at.
Because I think with the existence of the new star running back that everybody believes
that just changes everything.
Right. They will be able to run the ball more efficiently. They will run the ball more than they did last year, and it won't be because you have to at this point with how bad Ben Roethlisberger fell off at the end of the year, and the game plan changed so much last year at the end of the year because he was tired. I think they're going to have to run the ball more.
There you go. Think about what you just said.
Yeah, they're going to have to run the ball more if they want to get the most out of their 38-year-old quarterback. Mm-hmm. So
Been through it 608 times last year, and he didn't play in the last game. Mm-hmm. This is a 17-game season. Somebody asked earlier, what do I think will happen with running backs in the 17-game season? I think you'll see slightly more committee. There will be a little bit of an uptick there. Mm-hmm. Older quarterbacks are going to throw less, whether it's Ben, Aaron, Brady. Just telling you that matters. And I'm looking at almost exclusively at quarterbacks that are 28 or younger. I was trying to think of how old the oldest one I'm interested in is. For fantasy this year. With the 17-game schedule. Because I think a guy like Ben, I see a path. The offense has not changed much the entire time he's been around. Mm-hmm. Whether it was Arians, Randy Feichner, the offense stayed borderline the same. Two most attempt seasons he's had in his career, last year and the year before that. The last healthy year before that. Mm-hmm. He was hurt in the year in between. Most attempts he's had in his career, I don't look for that to happen again. I look for him to get back into that low to mid fives. I can see him 520, 530. And that puts your receivers, all the targets coming down. So I want the one I can get last, which is Juju. Or Claypool, who's just my best friend, and I want us to do karate in the garage. Rob Johnson had a great point. Najee can catch too. Mm-hmm. James Conner had 10 thumbs. Najee does not. And please, somebody, say Jalen Samuels, because he's bad at football. Todd Haley, that was the other one.
I wanted to try to squeeze Najee Harris in here just so you would yell at me even more, but there was no way that I could squeeze him into the fade category.
Najee?
Yeah.
No. If you fade Najee at your own risk. I got Najee in the third round of a draft 2 nights ago.
That's damn good value.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. He was my third running back. It's the only team that I have not taken a tight end in the first 3 rounds. I was just curious what it would look like. I was fine with it.
Okay. I was going to say, did you like it? Because it sounds like you should like it.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Fantasy faves and fades for the Cleveland Browns in 2021. I'm on Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, do you know where he finished last year?
Wide receiver 12? Or running back 12?
It was 10. Chubb was 9. He was 10.
Are you looking PPR or standard?
I don't know. It might have been a standard list.
I think that's in standard.
It might have been a standard list.
Because he didn't catch as many passes as you think he did.
Right.
And not you, the metaphorical you.
Yes, the general populace.
Yeah.
So standard scoring league, he finished 10. Mm-hmm. Nick Chubb was 9. Nick Chubb missed 4 games last year. There wasn't a huge bump for Kareem Hunt in those games. It's almost as if he played better when he had Nick Chubb in there pounding, and he could be used as the change of pace guy. He's the pass catcher of this group. And that's the other thing that I like about him this year is I think that there is a chance that he is going to see even more targets this year. Kareem Hunt, to me, is a guy that is, I'm not going to say his ADP is way too low right now, but
what do you have his ADP at right now?
But depending on where he could finish, it's overall 49.
I got him at 43 consensus across all sites. That's too high for me.
Is it?
It's too high for me.
A guy who finished in the top 12, finished as an RB1 last year, and you can get him in the 4th round.
And he finished there against one of the worst schedules in the NFL. I do not buy this team. I have said that for as long as I can remember.
You have.
If he was the passing down guy, which everybody wants to make him out to be, and he is the passing down guy. Mm-hmm. If he was this pass-catching James White type running back that everybody makes him out to be, he caught 2 passes a game last year. 2. I just don't think you're going to see a workload like that. If Kareem Hunt somehow wound up on the Rams, he would be a top 6 running back in the NFL to me. Mm-hmm. With Nick Chubb splitting carries, I think it's going to be more Baker having to throw because I think teams are going to load the box up against this team because they're just not scared of Baker Mayfield at all. Kareem Hunt's one of those guys. All right, just looking at who he's going around. Mm-hmm. I would take him certainly over. If he can stay where he's going as the back end, or he's probably the last running back I could be fine with being my RB2.
Okay.
If he can stay where he's at, which I don't think he will, I'm okay with it. But personally, I just think he's the worst RB2. I'd rather have DeAndre Swift. I'd rather have, which is saying a lot because I'm very down on DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have Miles Sanders. I'd rather have Josh Jacobs. He's right there at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I'm also down on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably my RB20. It's just hard for me to get excited about a guy that splits the workload, and I don't think they're going to be able to run as much as they did last year.
Because you think teams are going to load the box against
100%. Why wouldn't you? You're absolutely not scared of this quarterback in the least, and you shouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I mean, Baker Mayfield is my fade for the Cleveland Browns.
And you told me that this morning. Is anybody faving him?
I mean, there are some.
His family?
And his fan base?
His fan base. Mm-hmm. You can't worry about his fan base.
There are some people who are drunk on Baker Mayfield that think Baker Mayfield is going to take the kind of leap that Josh Allen did last year.
Oh, those people are dumb. And you can't really worry about his fan base. You should probably call a doctor for them because they've been eating lead paint chips.
He's got a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. They think he's going to figure something out. Jarvis Landry's still there. He's got a budding bromance with Rashard Higgins and Austin Hooper. And there are so many excuses that people make for Baker Mayfield that, yeah, I mean, he's going as quarterback 16. And to me, that's too much. I don't want him.
I would agree.
I don't want him at all.
He's not in. He would probably be at 28 for me. Mm-hmm. 26, somewhere in there. Steven Tao said he's definitely a top 32 quarterback in the NFL.
Definitely.
It's close.
No, it's not. For fantasy purposes?
Oh, I thought he meant in talent.
No. Well, he may have meant, but I'm talking in fantasy value. I mean, he's top half of the league, but I don't see him as having top 10 upside. I think it would be a shot in the dark for that to happen. And when I'm drafting my quarterback, I want somebody who's got the ability to be in that top 10.
Do you know where he finished last year?
16.
17.
Yeah. Right
in front of Jared Goff.
Yeah. He's just a dude. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm not going to have Baker Mayfield anywhere, and I don't think anybody else should either. Just leave him undrafted.
I love how arbitrary commentary said. The Browns are a team that's about to take a step. Mm-hmm. ... off a cliff.
Yeah. Last year. What is your line for a quarterback? For your starting quarterback, how many points will you be happy if they score? Like, it doesn't have to have
I don't really think of it that way.
You don't think of it that way?
No, I don't. I mean, I do projections every week, but that's more for people that's how they set their lineup.
Right.
For me, I live by the Ricky Bobby philosophy at quarterback and tight end. I will either be first or I'll be last. Mm-hmm. Now, but this year, there's a couple guys that are falling so much that I can't just let them keep falling past me.
Right.
I'm not going to take Myles Gaskin ahead of Lamar Jackson. I'm just not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. But this is what I'm saying. Where do you feel good about your quarterback, or at least decent about your quarterback on what they score in a given week? I mean, obviously, if he scores 15 points, it's going to be a shit week, and you're going to be pissed.
My favorite current build at quarterback, and this is going to change as time goes on, but my favorite current build at quarterback is that I do not take one until the 12th round. And then I take 3 in a row.
Okay.
And it's Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance.
No Deshaun Watson?
It depends. I think I've said the Deshaun Watson thing too many times. And I keep getting sniped on him right in front of me. By the time I'm like, yeah! By the way, did you hear Daniel Jeremiah yesterday on he was on, I think it was the Doug Gottlieb show.
Okay.
He said the next snap that Deshaun Watson takes is for one of 2 teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles, Miami Dolphins.
I love when I hear things and it takes 3 months for mainstream media to report it.
No, where I was trying to lead you down on that path of how many points can your quarterback score. I think you feel pretty good if your quarterback scores 20 points in a week.
See, but I don't look at it that way. I play quarterbacks. I play matchups the same way I do with tight ends. If I don't take a guy, and this year I'm either going to do that with tight end or quarterback, I will have a guy at one of those 2 positions because I don't want to play. Last year I had to play waiver wire roulette with tight ends and quarterbacks, and it was a pain in the ass. And I got sniped on guys. I got very lucky with Jalen Hurts, who fell in my lap, and I bought into him a week earlier as a fantasy quarterback than anybody else did. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that again. You know, that's another thing you got to think about when you're drafting teams is what is going to make this less stressful for me? And there's a lot of players that just are stressful to me. Mm-hmm. Seemingly a lot of them that you like for some reason.
Like who?
Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is stressful to me.
And see, I'm not worried about it. I feel like he gets his every week, and I'm not really concerned about it. And I would say he averages probably 15 points a week, something like that.
Based on what he scored last year. I only play in PPR, so anything I ever say will be in PPR.
Anyway, to wrap up my point about Baker Mayfield while he's looking that up.
I can't believe I didn't know this.
What?
You realize Kareem Hunt outscored Nick Chubb in PPR last year? Mm-hmm. Not per game. It wasn't even close in per game. Kareem Hunt, here's my problem with Kareem Hunt. In terms of points per game, where would you put him last year? Don't give me a number. Give me like a guy.
Like a guy.
Who do you think he's comparable to per game last year?
I don't know. Let's go with the guy we've already talked about, J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins was 2 points behind him.
Okay.
Try again.
Try again.
There's a guy that's right beneath him that's funny as hell to me.
Oh, God. I don't know.
He was right behind Mike Davis.
Okay.
He was right in front of Ronald Jones II. That's who Kareem is. Kareem Hunt's a guy that has to play every game of the year. You know what you're going to get. The ceiling is stupidly low as long as Nick Chubb is on the field. And he was, at the end of the day, he was propped up by some big games.
Yeah.
I think he's consistent, but I don't see a whole shitload of upside.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
When I go into a week, I want my quarterback to score at least 20 points. That's my line. If he scores less than 20 points, I'm going to be real pissed off.
See, I don't think of it that way.
If he scores over 20 points, then he's done his job for the day. Here's my problem.
I don't ever think of that way. That's a very odd way of looking at that to me.
Why? You don't go into a week expecting your quarterback to do a certain amount.
No. Oh, okay. I look at it and go, who's better, my quarterback or his? Or hers? My running back's his.
Right.
That's I play my opponent. Mm-hmm. That's how I set my lineup.
Anyway, if that's your threshold, if your threshold for quarterbacks is around 20 points, then last year, you want to guess how many startable games Baker Mayfield had? It's 4.
I'm shocked it was that many.
If 20 points is your barrier,
I didn't know you were getting ready to ask me that, so I was sitting here looking at Baker Mayfield game logs.
Yeah, he had 4 games last year where he scored over 20 points. That's another reason I will have him nowhere.
I don't buy him. I do, however, buy Odell Beckham Jr.
I want to, but I can't.
Solely because of where he's going. Do you realize the receivers on each side of him? T. Higgins is the one going right after him, which is stupid.
It's not a question.
He's the 3 in Cincinnati, and he's going behind Odell Beckham Jr. Odell's one of those guys, to me, that the hate has now gotten to a stupid point. Mm-hmm. Well, and he was not particularly good last year.
It's the trust factor. You can't trust him.
He's had 1,000 years. He's had 1,000 yards every year he's ever played 12 games or more. Mm-hmm. That's pretty damn trustable to me. What's hurt him is that he's stopped scoring. Mm-hmm. He has 4 more touchdowns in the last 4 years than he did his first year in the league. So, yeah, that hurts him, but touchdowns are cyclical. We've said that forever. It's the Julio Jones rule. Mm-hmm. You throw it to them enough, eventually they're going to score. So I don't understand the hate on Odell, I suppose.
The 7th round is dumb.
Yeah.
The 7th round is dumb to me to have that be where Odell Beckham Jr. is going off. I'll agree with you on that one. I just can't put him in my favorite category because of the question marks. I don't know how many games he's going to play. There's all the stats out there that you can look up about how less efficient Baker Mayfield is when Odell Beckham Jr. is on the field. That doesn't scream, come get me, to me. And there will probably be somebody in your league that will get him before you even think about it.
If he's sitting there in 7th round, he will be on my team. Yeah. Might be there in the 6th.
Okay.
Just depends on how things have laid out. Because the upside on him is stupid. And I think they're going to throw way more.
Hey, Jeremy.
That schedule's ugly.
Are you ready to be a star on Reddit again?
Oh. My favorite team in the NFL.
Time to talk about the fantasy faves and fades for the Cincinnati Bengals. My favorite on this team this year is Tyler Boyd. I understand that Jamar Chase has come into town, and he's Joey B's new little boyfriend. And I understand that T. Higgins came on last year, looked like a great relationship that he's building with Joe Burrow. Tyler Boyd, to me, he's just the guy that kind of gets left out of the shuffle now.
Because his targets, he went down 40 targets with Joe Burrow coming in. Mm-hmm.
But I think the ability is still there for him to score a lot of points for you in fantasy football.
I'm fine with him. Mm-hmm. For me, the Tyler Boyd thing is, where do I have to take him? And right now, I have to take him right around Juju Smith-Schuster, Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, Marquis Brown, Deebo Samuel, Will Fuller, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Antonio Brown, Jalen Waddle. I like every one of these guys better
all
than
of them?
All of them.
Wow.
I have not said one player that I like Tyler Boyd better than. Because here's the thing. I would say his targets go down again. Because you had AJ Greene last year that was not himself. Mm-hmm. Even when he was on the field, he wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. And you're still at 110 targets. And by the way, that was as a slot guy with a backup quarterback for a portion of the season. I can see a path where Tyler Boyd sees 95 to 100 targets all year long.
I don't.
So here's the thing. Jamar Chase is a slot guy too. Mm-hmm. Why people don't seem to want to talk about that, I don't know. But Jamar Chase is a slot guy too. May play on the outside. I'm not saying that he won't. He's going to play some in the slot as well.
Right.
And I still look at T. Higgins. At Auden Tate, I would be remiss if I didn't point him out.
Mm-hmm. Every receiver on this team had over 100 targets last year. Mm-hmm. You give Joey B a full year, I'm going to like all of the pieces, except for Auden Tate.
Hey, don't sleep on Auden Tate. One of the newest members of the West Virginia Ninjas.
He's the only one that I will, when it comes up, for my turn, and I'm looking at if there's a Cincinnati wide receiver on there, I'm going to strongly consider it, because I think there is a possibility that they're going to be behind in every game that they are in. They're going to have to throw a lot, and I have a feeling that that other teams' opponents are going to key in on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
I think you're going to see more of markedly more of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon averaged 20 carries a game in the games he was healthy last year. The line was just bad.
Yep.
It is certainly better. I'm still not sold on the line. I still think all the paths that we've already been down. But it's going to be better. So Joe Mixon's my buy. That's my fave on this team.
Yeah.
I think he will catch passes this year. I think he is going to be a very, very good running back in the system, because you have to take some of the workload off Joe Burrow. He can't throw 45, 50 times a game. Mm-hmm. You just can't ask a guy coming off a complete knee reconstruction to do that, especially behind this line. I like the weapons. I've never not liked the weapons. That's all well and good. You're going to have to do something to help him. So Joe Mixon's is my fave.
And he's a guy that you're going to target in the second round.
I'll target him in the third round.
In the third round?
Mm-hmm. Back into the second, beginning of the third.
Okay.
I'm okay with Joe Mixon being my second running back. I don't really want him to be my first, but if it broke down that way, I wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to watch me if I was on a high ledge.
Right.
But I wouldn't love it.
I don't love Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is my fade for the Cincinnati Bengals, just because he's the rent is too damn high, as we like to say. I'm just not going to feel comfortable putting him in that position. I don't believe in the offensive line all that much of this team. I don't know how much better his running lanes are going to get.
It'll be better than last year.
I get that he gets a shitload of tote.
And there's no threat to the workload. That's another part of this.
Right. Who's behind him? Samaje Perine? Mm-hmm. Nah. I get it.
And Trayvon Williams.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to let somebody else jump on that grenade.
I'm good.
And then I will...
right now, he's going ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who scares the hell out of me. J.K. Dobbins, we've already talked about
I would take him
potential. And I would, too, if I knew there wasn't another running back coming in. Mm-hmm. If Todd Gurley comes in, no, I'll take Joe Mixon ahead of him. Him and Josh Jacobs are damn close for me, but I'd take him over Chris Carson, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, all these other guys. I think Joe Mixon's about where he belongs. Mm-hmm. But I will be in on him. The Bengal I'm out on is T. Higgins.
Okay. You're not a believer in the early success that he had with Joe.
It's not that I'm not a believer. It's that, okay, you were his favorite toy last year. Well, guess what? His favorite toy from college just showed up, and right. I don't see how that's not going to get you.
Right.
You went from A.J. Greene, who could barely run half the season, to Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. Jamar Chase is going to have 130-plus targets in this offense. Period. I just don't see how that doesn't get T. Higgins. I think he'll be fine. What bothers me is where he's going. I'm having to take him over Odell Beckham Jr., and that's stupid. I'm having to take him over the Pittsburgh guys. I'm having to take him over two of the Pittsburgh guys. That's just too high for me. This is a guy who I could make the case is the third receiver in this offense. Mm-hmm. I could make that case. I wouldn't necessarily believe it, but the case could be made, and I think could be made appropriately.
All right, so those are your faves and fades for the AFC North in 2021. We'll throw that graphic back up there, and we'll do the quick recap here. We got faves for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm on J.K. Dobbins, and you are on Lamar Jackson. Jeremy, both of our fades are Marquis Brown for Jeremy, Mark Andrews for me. Wide receivers from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You're on Deonte Johnson, and I'm off of him.
Yep.
You're on Juju Smith-Schuster. I would be on Chase Claypool, and I'm all over Najee Harris where he's being drafted currently.
Right. Cleveland Browns, I'm on Kareem Hunt. I like the value there. Not interested in Odell Beckham Jr.
I'm in on Odell. I'm out on Austin Hooper. To me, he's just another tight end. I'm not taking him where his ADP goes. We're both out on Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I don't even have him as a draftable quarterback.
No. And then for the Cincinnati Bengals, Tyler Boyd is my favorite. Joe Mixon is yours. I'm fading Joe Mixon just because I don't trust it. And you're fading T. Higgins.
Yep.
You're in the Sportsocracy, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget also to go check out our friends at Manscaped at manscaped.com. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, optimized trimmer that makes shaving time the best time when you're in the bathroom. That's what Manscaped gives you with the Lawnmower 4.0. The advanced skin-safe technology can help ease your mind about any mishaps that can occur when you are, when you're touching up the family jewels. They've got the precision-engineered tools for your family jewels at Manscaped. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, and you can use our exclusive offer here. Use the promo code Sportsocracy at manscaped.com to save save 20% on your entire purchase and get free worldwide shipping. I love my Lawnmower 4.0. I got the little weed whacker too that takes care of the nose hairs and the ear hairs and everything. Just glancing over, I think it's about time for you to whip out the weed whacker again. We're starting to see some peeking out.
It's partially just beard.
It's good. It is hard with Jeremy to tell which one's beard hair and which one is unsightly nose hairs.
Gets a little chaotic. I got a lot of face.
But again, precision engineered tools for your family jewels, and as well as they got the advanced skin safe technology on the weed whacker as well that again you use on the nose and the ear passages.
It's all wins for the skin twins.
I love it. Sportsocracy is the promo code at manscaped.com. Save 20% on your entire purchase and free worldwide shipping. Your balls will thank you. These T-shirts, by the way, they're available at manscaped.com as well. They're
soft as hell.
Oh, God. It's the most comfortable T-shirt I've ever worn. So even if you're just getting a T-shirt, you can save 20% on that today as well using the promo code Sportsocracy at manscaped.com. We're talking about the faves and the fades in fantasy football this year, division by division. Let's talk about the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers, I think everybody's favorite for the Green Bay Packers obviously has to be Aaron Rodgers, but you don't want to do the dull takes.
No, you went with Aaron Jones.
I went with the real spicy take, Aaron Jones, baby.
We're actually exactly opposite here. Because your fave is my fade and your fade is my fave.
And that's fine. We can all agree to disagree. For me, Aaron Jones, there is no more Jamal Williams in town to take away his targets in the passing game. That's the key for me. In the last 2 seasons, Jones has 96 catches. I think there's an opportunity for him to get a lot more. This is like 35, 45 targets in the last 2 years apiece. In passing game targets for Jamal Williams. That workload's not going to A.J. Dillon.
I disagree with you.
Oh, you think A.J. Dillon is going to get some passing game work?
They invested a draft pick in A.J. Dillon, didn't they? There you go. I don't see Aaron Jones. I mean, he's had right at 50 receptions 2 years in a row. I don't think that's going up. I don't. I think Aaron Jones is currently being drafted at his ceiling, and that bothers me. A.J. Dillon, I like this kid coming out a lot. Obviously, the Packers did too because they took him pretty high.
Yeah.
LaFleur has never shown a predilection to give one guy exclusive work. Now the backup is a guy that they invested high-level draft capital in. I kind of refuse to believe that it's not going to be. I don't in any way think this is a 50-50 split, but I think he will get more work than Jamal Williams did. How many carries
in the running game?
In everything. A.J. Dillon's got fine hands, by the way.
Okay. I see A.J. Dillon more as he'll get some of that grunt
goal line
Right.
because he's a gigantic human being.
Right, he'll get some of the grunt work, and I think that opens up the ability for Aaron Jones to have like an Alvin Kamara type season.
I disagree. I think Aaron Jones is currently being drafted at his ceiling, not at value.
Okay.
I mean, people are taking him ahead of Ezekiel Elliott, which is just fucking insane to me. It's insane to me to take him ahead of a lot of the guys that are going in front of him.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Jones is a mid-second round pick. Because
I think he's a late. He's a late first round pick for me. If I'm picking at the back end of the first round, I'm definitely going to have my eyeballs on him. I think at the end of the first round, it's between Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler for me as the guy that I'm going to target.
I like Aaron Jones better.
I do as well.
Or I like Austin Eckler.
Oh, you
better.
like Austin Eckler?
Yep.
No, I like Aaron Jones better than Austin Eckler, but to me, it's close.
Let's play a fun game.
Yeah.
This is let's go. I only play PPR, so let's go PPR.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones had a 45-point game. That was in week 2 against Detroit, who sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, how many times did he break 20 points all year long?
7. 3?
In PPR, he had 3 other 20-point games all year long.
That's crazy.
25 against Carolina, 24 against Philadelphia, 22 against Atlanta. Think about what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 of the worst 8 run defenses in the NFL. Minnesota's going to be better. I think Detroit's going to be better against the run. And Chicago was always fine. That's 6 of your games. Schedule for Green Bay ain't great. It's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another fun little game. How many times did Aaron Jones have 20 carries in one game?
Twice.
Once. It was against Carolina. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Never had more than 5 receptions in a game. Never had more than 8 targets in a game. He doesn't get a workload like all of these guys around him.
Mm-hmm.
Even Nick Chubb, who splits time with Kareem Hunt, gets more of a workload than Aaron Jones does. And that scares me. Because now you're going from a guy that they had little draft capital in to a guy they have large draft capital in. And I just don't. I think we've already seen his ceiling of workload. See, I think a lot of people are doing what he's doing. Jamal Williams is going, let the good times roll. Yeah, you got a second round pick behind him now. He'll get as much work as Jamal Williams, if not more. And I think he's more of a threat to vulture at the goal line than Jamal Williams ever was. Because he outweighs him by 40 freaking pounds.
There is potential. A.J. Dillon's a guy that I like. I'm going to be.
As well you should.
Right. I mean, you can get him late in a draft, and if something happens, God forbid, to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon is what? He's top 10? Could be a top 10 running back? If he got all the workload. If something happened early in the season.
He wouldn't get all the workload.
Who would they give it to?
Whoever else is on that roster. Mike LaFleur has never given full work, or not Mike, Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur.
Has never given full workload to any running back.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. And he never will. Because that's how he believes. Especially now with an extra game. Yeah, I mean, you're going to see a workload split. And I'm not saying it's a huge split, but it's enough to annoy me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be at the most inopportune times at the goal line. Fun question. How many yards per carry did A.J. Dillon average last year? Now, granted, he only had 46 carries.
4.5.
5.5.
Okay.
The reason Jamal Williams was allowed to walk out the door is because they like A.J. Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
The take that you have that just blows my mind is you're not in on Robert Tonyan, which it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not that I'm not in on it. Look, I didn't want to go the route I went yesterday with a couple of teams and put not applicable. So I had to twist and turn to try to find somebody to fade. And if I'm lowering my expectations for anybody this year, it's going to be for Robert Tonyan. I mean, he's a fine target down in the red zone. He's going to be Aaron Rodgers' little safety blanket once they get in close. I just don't know if 11 touchdowns is replicable.
It's not. I also think a guy that has an 88% catch rate probably sees more than 59 targets next year. Do you understand he had 59 targets all year?
Mm-hmm. He caught 52 of them, by the way.
88% catch rate. Mm-hmm. I have a funny feeling that's going to go up, especially considering they didn't really add any weapons.
No, Amari Rogers, he was the only one. I mean, he becomes more of a legitimate partner to me, to Davante Adams, but
Amari Rogers?
Yeah.
He's fine. This slot guy, 20 snaps a game. Nothing outrageous. Here's the thing. PPR, Robert Tonyan was the number 3 tight end in fantasy football on 59 targets. 59. That's let me do the math on that. That's like 4 a game. As a matter of fact, it's less than 4 a game. Number 3 tight end in fantasy football.
Mm-hmm. He had a whole lot of touchdowns last year. I just don't know if it's replicable. I don't know how much of that midfield game he's going to get.
Well, currently, he's being drafted behind Rob Gronkowski, Hunter Henry, Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert, Evan Ingram, Mike Gesicki, Jonnu Smith. Yeah.
I'll take him over everyone.
I will too. Mm-hmm. And yet he's your fade.
He's the only one I could find. That's how much I believe in the actual fantasy relevant weapons of Green Bay. It's the best thing that I can say is don't expect 11 touchdowns out of Robert Tonyan. Might be 9.
My problem is I think this team is going to be really good. For me, Aaron Jones is the only one I'm reasonably scared of.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams is going to get workload. It's going to be ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I don't know that this offense will be good enough to sustain 2 first-round picks, which is what they're currently being asked to do.
Yeah.
Don't know that they can do that.
I don't either. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Favorites and fades?
I'm going to yell at you on this one. I already see it coming.
Okay. Favorites and the fades for the Minnesota Vikings in 2021 fantasy football. My favorite is Justin Jefferson. Spicy hot take. I was all wild about this guy last year, and he came in and immediately hit the scene and commanded more workload than anybody else in that passing game. Mm-hmm. And it's going to continue. There's nothing that Justin Jefferson showed last year that gives you any pause as to what he can do. Kirk Cousins can deliver him the ball routinely, put it in good spots, and he can get out and go get it.
I disagree with absolutely none of that.
A 26% target share is kind of mind-boggling.
It's also not exactly replicable.
That I don't know about. I don't know how much less workload he and Adam Thielen are going to get this year.
Let me put it this way. Adam Thielen's played 4 years with Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
One, he was hurt and had 48 targets. That was in 2019. Mm-hmm. He had 108 last year. The 2 years before that, he had 142 and 153. That was with Stephon Diggs on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely drunk you're Charlie Sheen.
Wow, winning.
Drunk as hell with where Adam Thielen is going currently.
Okay.
I would rather have Adam Thielen where he's going than Justin Jefferson where he's going.
I mean, Justin Jefferson, to get him, you got to take him as one of the top 8 wide receivers in the league.
You'll take him back into the second round, beginning of the third. Mm-hmm. You might get lucky and he slides in the beginning of the third. Conversely, I can get Adam Thielen in the 5th, late 5th, early 6th.
Mm-hmm.
He could be a wide receiver 1. It wouldn't shock me.
He could.
If anything happened, if I'm wrong about Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen is a wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because they will throw a shitload, and there's not many receivers in this system. I was all in on Irv Smith until I wasn't. Mike Zimmer came out and said his role's not going to change. Okay, cool. Well, fuck me then. And now how that's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know that I fully believe that with no Kyle Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if his role doesn't grow, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson will both be high-level, top 15 to 18 wide receivers in the NFL. Touchdowns don't matter. None of it matters. Just catches and yards. They will be that good.
Yeah.
That's how good I think this offense can be. By the way, it's also why I like Kirk Cousins as my, hey, you can start the year and then maybe one of my rookies will show up and be phenomenal.
Right.
For fantasy, not on the field.
I took kind of the same tack with this as I did with Robert Tonyan. It's just I don't know that Adam Thielen can live up to what he did last year. So it's more of a fading expectations thing than anything. He scored 14 touchdowns last year. Is the most he's ever had. He's 30 years old. What do we know about football players? 30 years old, they tend to start slowing down. Not saying he's going to be.
It doesn't typically go that way with receivers. I love how you're saying age with Adam Thielen, and your quarterback is old enough to be his father.
Now, don't ask him to out-sprint cornerbacks either.
Adam Thielen is in fine shape.
I'm sure he is. I'm just saying eventually that downfall comes somewhere. And you keep saying it about Tom Brady, it's going to come. I'm eventually going to be right. Well, maybe
He's a decade and a half
Maybe this is my
older.
Tom Brady. Eventually it's going to happen.
He was a sophomore in high school when Adam Thielen was born. This is not the same thing by any stretch. And by the way, the 30-year-old thing is running backs, not wide receivers. You're not allowed to hit these guys anymore. Everything you do is a flag. By the way, this is why I stack dynasty rosters with wide receivers.
Right.
Because they live forever. I'm 100% fine with Thielen.
Okay.
The one I'm off of is Irv Smith, and it's not because I don't believe the talent. It's because when people try to tell you who they are, you should probably listen. Minnesota has routinely said his role's not going to grow because we don't like fun. Mike Zimmer looks like he's been sitting in the freezer.
He's the new O.J. Howard.
Which is just bullshit. O.J. Howard, another member of the West Virginia Ninjas.
O.J. Howard came into the league. I thought he was going to set the world on fire, and then he never got used. And that's how I see Irv Smith and his career trajectory has been so far.
Unfortunately, I'm starting to believe you. Dalvin Cooks, who I really wanted to say is my fave because he's my number one running back in fantasy football this year. I like Dalvin Cook more than I like any running back. And if I'm right, then I could be wrong on Thielen and Jefferson because the workload could – it might not be as high. I think Minnesota is better this year than they were last year. Be able to get after quarterbacks, I think they're going to win more games, which means there's going to be less, hey, Kurt threw 47 times this week.
Right.
Not sure you're going to see that again. Thielen, I don't think for where he's going, it doesn't have to be. Jefferson, he'd better go that way because he's going to need a lot of work share.
2021 fantasy faves and fades. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
Hey, this going to be short because we damn near agree on everything.
Favorites, we're going to wide receivers. Fade, it's the running back. It's David Montgomery. David Montgomery's being oversold. Let's start there.
Yeah, he played 4 of the 5 worst rush defenses in the NFL, and he was all of a sudden really good. Never been that guy before. 2 years, he had never been that guy.
Yep.
And then the Jaguars, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Texans show up on the schedule. He looks like Barry Sanders, and everybody's running out to snag him.
Yep.
You're drunk. Go home, you're drunk.
It's not replicable.
Nope.
His burst onto the scene in the last 7 games of the year last year were just, it was ungodly. It was out of character for him. I don't see that as as that's going to continue. He's not a guy that you can get value out of right now.
Put it this way. He had 7 touchdowns against Detroit, literally the 4 teams I just said, and the Green Bay Packers. In the 10 games before that, he had 1 rushing. He had 2 receiving, but it's not replicable. You don't get a whole season playing against the dregs of the league. To me, David Montgomery's a 6th-round running back. I'm fine if he's my 3rd. And I would like it better if it was with Justin Fields. And I know he'll never last that long, so he will be on 0 teams that I have.
Right. According to the Fantasy Pros ADP here, it looks like he's going in the 3rd round.
Yep, out. Rather have Miles Sanders, rather have Josh Jacobs, I'd rather have Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
James Robinson?
I'd rather have James Robinson. I'd rather have Kareem Hunt. I'd rather have Mike Davis. I'd rather have Damian Harris. I'd rather have. I mean, I could do this for a long time.
There's a whole lot of guys that you'd rather have than David Montgomery, who is currently going in the 3rd round. So he is no doubt the consensus fade for us here in the Sportsocracy. Now, the favorite, I got one wide receiver, you got the other one. I got Allen Robinson.
Yeah, yours is, hey, today is Thursday. I really like the one receiver they have.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure I agree with you. I think you're going to see Cole Kmet take more of a workload. You still got Jimmy Graham. I am hammered drunk on Darnell Mooney. Hammered. With a better quarterback, because I think Justin Fields is going to play from week 1.
That was going to be my next question.
I'm not against Allen Robinson.
Right.
I get one in the 12th round. I get one in the 3rd.
You do have to spend top draft capital on him, but he is a guy that has consistently performed. He's been a top 12 wide receiver for the last 2 years. He's been one. He has always turned in great seasons, regardless of who his quarterbacks are. And this year, if you give him Justin Fields, a guy who I believe can be way better than anybody else he's ever had throw into him, there's no doubt to me that he is going to live up to his ADP this year.
I mean, he's a wide receiver 1. I don't know if he's the wide receiver 1 that I want, because I'm afraid you're going to see too much Andy Dalton. I'm the one that usually projects. Chicago's one I'm not willing to project. The reason I didn't like the Justin Fields moves because I felt like the coaching staff would be better served to have Andy Dalton on the field because he's the vet guy and not grow with a rookie. If they agree with me, you're going to see Andy Dalton for 10 weeks before they get fired. And Allen Robinson with Andy Dalton, yeah, I'm going to pass on that.
With Allen Robinson's workload that he got last year on how many targets he saw and where he saw them from, he should have finished as wide receiver 4. But because his quarterback play was so bad, he didn't have the opportunity to catch all of those balls that were thrown his way. So I think with just a little bit more accuracy for the quarterback position, Allen Robinson could be a guy whose upside is in the top 5 of wide receivers this year. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. There's not a whole lot to like about this team. But
we both dislike the same guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's DeAndre Swift. He's being overblown.
100% he's being overblown.
And look, I'm a Georgia guy. Love DeAndre. Think he's a very talented player, but I just don't think that he's a workhorse guy in the NFL.
I think he's fine for a workhorse. The problem is they're going to use Jamal Williams. They just paid him.
Yep.
Now, there's a report out today that apparently the Rams have called on Jamal Williams. If Jamal Williams was not with the Rams, then I take back what I said about DeAndre Swift. I still think he's going too high, but I could at least get down with it. The Jamal Williams thing is what scares me on DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
It's not really the talent. He's a 4.5 yard per carry, 8 touchdown guy last year in 13 games. Splitting workload to the highest extreme because Matt Patricia is a douche. A big, syrupy, drippy douche.
When we were talking about the Baltimore Ravens, you said you were concerned by the fact that the Ravens were out looking for another running back. The Detroit Lions are in the same place.
Well, that's another part of this.
They went out and courted Todd Gurley, just like apparently the Baltimore Ravens did.
Well, and they're still in on Todd Gurley, too.
Now, listen, to me, this is it's a bit of a different situation. J.K. Dobbins is a guy that I believe in as the guy that's going to get the most tote for this team. Not saying DeAndre Swift's not that for the Detroit Lions, but I mean,
he 100% is, by the way.
It concerns me more if they're already looking to cut your workload.
There's an opportunity cost here because you don't know what Dan Campbell's going to be. You don't know. I mean, you reasonably know what Anthony Lynn will be from his years with the Chargers and with Buffalo and the Jets. You know what all those teams had in common?
What's that?
None of them had a bell cow running back. Eckler did not get bell cow workload. He got a shitload of targets. And my fear is that there's going to be a split here, and people are taking DeAndre Swift based on talent, not on opportunity. So I am Seacrest out on Swift. If they sign Todd Gurley, I'm super out. Hell, if they sign any running back, I'm Seacrest out. Now, they trade Jamal Williams, don't replace him, roll with Swift and a bunch of young backs. Okay. Now we're more talking. Buying Penny Sewell, I can get down with that.
Yeah, I think the Lions are going to run the football a lot this year. But I still think DeAndre Swift he's going to get his workload cut into by somebody.
I agree.
They're not going to take the risk on running him 25 times a game.
I agree.
Now, let's talk about the favorite. My favorite is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is the only wide receiver on this team that I want any piece of in fantasy football this year.
I think you're a year too early.
And I may be. I picked him up in 3 dynasty leagues already because I believe that he is going to be something special when they actually get a quarterback that I believe in. Because I don't think the Jared Goff thing is going to last much longer. We could talk about that at another time. But to me, I look at this depth chart and I see Brashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams, and the next guy on the list is Quintez Cephas. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only piece that I want.
The one that I think you're a year early. In Dynasty, I'm all over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just think there's going to be some growing pains this year. Mainly because of what you said. I don't like the pieces around him. And so he's a piece that I can see coming on late. Like I can see people in fantasy football taking Amon-Ra St. Brown, getting frustrated 6 weeks into the season that he's got 20 targets. Cut him, then something happens to Perriman, something happens to Terrell Williams, and now he's the one. The one I'm interested in is T.J. Hockenson. I would like him to fall. I don't want to take him in that Mark Andrews territory.
Right.
But I've seen him fall. A lot of people are Seacrest out on this team with Jared Goff. At the end of the day, tight ends got a lot of run in that Rams offense. And T.J. Hockenson, I would say his floor, absolute floor, is 120 targets in this offense. They're going to be behind a lot. He's got pretty good hands. I actually think for T.J. Hockenson by himself, Jared Goff is a step up from Matthew Stafford. Not more talented, more likely to use a tight end.
Okay.
Think about how many tight ends played with Matthew Stafford that were big pedigree guys. Brandon Pettigrew, Eric Ebron. Never used any of them. All of them were considered busts with the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Jared Goff made names out of Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. Now, granted, they didn't get huge workloads. But like I said, like I've told you before, the Rams did not throw as much as you think they did. So don't get skewed by this. This team's going to be behind. I'm all in on T.J. Hockenson. I would like to get him later than he's going, and I think that's going to happen.
To me, I think there's a lot of hype surrounding T.J. Hockenson right now. Not saying he can't live up to it. I just don't. I don't foresee myself being in a draft where he falls to a place where I'm going to be after him.
Yeah, he won the belt at tight end U, by the way.
Yeah.
So you know. Jonathan Welch said that in the comment.
All right, so the year's already off to a great start for him.
T.J. Hockenson, Deontay Johnson. No, I'm asking you.
Oh.
T.J. Hockenson, Deontay Johnson.
Which one do I prefer?
Yep.
I'll take Hawk.
And you'll have him in some places.
Yeah.
Because he's going after Deontay Johnson almost universally.
Okay.
The problem with Hockenson is that there's a huge drop-off to the next tight end. Where I could, and now this is a game that you're going to have to play, and you'll have to, trust in yourself. In terms of ADP, you've got the usual suspects: Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts. Those 5 are in front of him. He is pretty universally 6th. If you're in a league where there's a lot of people like me that either want to be first or last, I could see a path where you ride the lightning of, hey, who will blink first? And you do it for a round, and then you get him in the 6th, 7th round. And that's tremendous value because that's a guy that you can just pencil in every week. He's the last of the every week, week in, week out tight ends to me.
I would agree
Logan
with that.
Thomas is close, but I'm not there yet. And Tonyan.
And, yeah, Robert Tonyan.
If you want it to be pronounced Tunyon, fucking spell it right.
I was just waiting on that. We had to end it on that one. He's always got to get that in, talking about Robert Tunyon. All right, so the faves and the fades for 2021 in fantasy football in the NFC North. Green Bay Packers, I'm in on Aaron Jones, out on Robert Tunyon, which is, I shouldn't have said it that way. I'm not out on Robert Tunyon. I just think you should expect some regression.
I mean, basically for the whole division, the net of it is that we completely disagree on Robert Tunyon and Adam Thielen. We're in lockstep on David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
And there are a few dart throws that you can have in this division late in the draft that I think will be conducive to winning in fantasy football. You think will be conducive to winning in fantasy football.
Yep.
And you're absolutely drop dead, absolutely ridiculously fucking wrong on Adam Thielen.
No chance he doesn't underperform this year.
No.
Okay.
You're just drunk wrong. Gary Busey, Charlie Sheen, drunk wrong on Adam Thielen.
I do. I think there's a chance that he could underperform this year from where you expect him to be. Not saying he's not going to be good. Just saying we can all agree to disagree. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene. We are live in the Wicked Weed studio. WickedWeedBrewing.com. Drink different. See you this afternoon on ESPN Asheville, 92.9 FM, 880 AM, and 1400. And, of course, you can hear the Sports Tank with Jeremy Greene every weekday afternoon, 3 to 5, everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sportsocracy here. Look forward to all of our individual team content that's coming out on the channel as well. And we will continue our faves and fades in fantasy football coming up tomorrow. We're now down to the West in both conferences.